I sold my commercial properties for $9.5 million and my husband arranged a private dinner to celebrate. When I stood up from the table to go to the bathroom, the waiter approached me and whispered, "Your husband paid me $500 to do this." What he told me left me completely shaken up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. The champagne in my glass caught the candlelight just right, throwing tiny golden sparks across the white tablecloth. 63 years old, and I still appreciated beauty when I saw it. The Carrington Steakhouse was everything Adam had promised. Chandeliers dripping with crystal, mahogany walls that whispered old money, servers who moved like dancers in their crisp black uniforms. The kind of place that required reservations weeks in advance. "To you, Michelle," Adam said, raising his glass. His smile was warm, the same one that had won me over 15 years ago when I was a widow who'd stopped believing in second chances. "To your incredible achievement, $9.5 million. You did it." I touched my glass to his, feeling the pleasant weight of exhaustion that comes after months of negotiation. The 3 commercial properties I'd inherited from my first husband, Thomas, 2 strip malls and an office building, had been my responsibility for 23 years. Selling them had felt like selling pieces of my past, but at 63, I was ready to simplify, ready to travel, ready to enjoy what remained. "We did it," I corrected him gently. "You helped with the legal reviews, the contract negotiations. I couldn't have managed without you." Adam shook his head, that familiar gesture of modest refusal. "I just dotted a few I's, sweetheart. This was all you. Your patience, your business sense. Thomas would be proud." The mention of Thomas didn't sting anymore, though there was always a twinge of something. Memory, maybe, or the ghost of old grief. Thomas had been dead for 18 years. His heart had given out at 59, leaving me alone with 2 adult children and more property than I knew how to manage. Adam had come into my life 3 years later, the attorney friend of a friend, recently divorced, gentle and attentive in ways Thomas never had been. Our marriage had been quiet, comfortable. No drama, no passion that burned too bright. At our age, I'd thought, that was exactly right. "I ordered the porterhouse for 2, Adam said, scanning the menu. "Unless you'd prefer something else?" "That sounds perfect." I glanced around the dining room. Saturday night, and every table was occupied. Men in suits, women in elegant dresses, the soft murmur of wealth and celebration. The couple nearest us were probably 40 years younger, leaning close across their table, wrapped up in whatever private world young lovers inhabit. I'd been that young once, though it felt like a different lifetime. Now I was a woman with silver hair swept into a neat chignon, wearing the pearl earrings Thomas had given me for our 25th anniversary. A woman who'd just concluded the biggest financial transaction of her life, sitting across from her second husband in the most expensive restaurant in Philadelphia. Everything should have felt perfect. Instead, something nagged at the edge of my awareness, a wrongness I couldn't name. Adam was looking at his phone, frowning slightly. "I need to make a quick call," he said, standing. "Work thing. I'll just be a minute." "On a Saturday night?" "Unfortunately, yes. Client emergency." He squeezed my shoulder as he passed. "Order us some appetizers if the server comes by." I watched him disappear toward the restaurant's entrance, phone already pressed to his ear. In 15 years of marriage, Adam had always been devoted to his clients. Sometimes I thought he cared more about their problems than his own life. It was one of the things I'd loved about him, his dedication, his sense of responsibility. My own phone buzzed. A text from my daughter Caroline. "Congrats again, Mom. Dad would be so happy for you. Love you." I smiled, typing back a quick thank you. Caroline lived in Boston now with her husband and 2 teenagers. My son, David, was in Seattle, running a tech startup that seemed to change names every few months. Both of them had encouraged me to sell the properties, to enjoy my golden years, as Caroline kept saying, as if I were some fragile thing that needed careful handling. The server appeared, a young man with anxious eyes and a sheen of perspiration on his forehead, despite the restaurant's perfect climate control. He set down a bread basket and filled my water glass with hands that trembled slightly. "Can I get you anything else, ma'am?" His voice was pitched too high, strained. My husband ordered appetizers, I believe? Yes, ma'am. They'll be right out. He hesitated, glancing toward the entrance where Adam had disappeared. Actually, ma'am, there's something I need to tell you. I looked at him more carefully. He was perhaps 25, with the kind of earnest face that hadn't yet learned to hide emotions. And right now, that face was broadcasting pure distress. Are you all right? I asked. He leaned down, lowering his voice to barely above a whisper. Ma'am, I need you to listen very carefully. Your husband— He paused, swallowed hard. He paid me $500 to put something in your drink. The words didn't make sense at first. They seemed to arrive in the wrong order, or in a language I didn't quite speak. I'm sorry. What? He gave me pills. 2 of them. He said to crush them into your wine when you weren't looking. The server's hand shook as he reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small plastic bag. Inside were 2 white pills, oval-shaped, with no markings I could see. I can't do it. I don't care about the money. What he's asking, it's not right. My throat had gone dry. This is some kind of mistake. No, ma'am, I'm sorry, but it's not. He pressed the bag into my hand. He approached me when he made the reservation 2 weeks ago. He said— The server's voice cracked. He said you had a medical condition, that you needed to be sedated for your own safety. But the way he said it, the amount of money he offered, nothing about this feels right. I stared at the pills in my palm. They looked so ordinary, so benign. The kind of thing that could be aspirin or vitamins or anything at all. Where is he now? He went outside to make a call. Ma'am, I think you should leave. I can call you a cab or— No. My voice came out stronger than I felt. No, I need to understand what's happening. The server glanced nervously toward the entrance. He'll be back any second. If he sees me talking to you, go, I said. Thank you. You did the right thing. He fled back toward the kitchen, leaving me alone with the pills and a creeping sense of unreality. This couldn't be happening. Adam wouldn't— He couldn't. But the evidence sat in my palm, solid and damning. I slipped the bag into my purse just as Adam returned, smoothing his tie, his expression apologetic. Sorry about that. Client drama. You know how it is. He settled into his chair, reaching for his wine. Did I miss anything? I forced my face into a smile, though my heart was racing. Just the bread. The appetizers should be here soon. Perfect. He studied me with what looked like genuine concern. You seem pale. Are you feeling all right? Just tired, I said. It's been a long few weeks. Of course. He reached across the table to take my hand. His fingers were warm, familiar. The same hands that had held me through my mother's funeral, that had painted the guest bedroom last spring, that had made me coffee every morning for 15 years. We'll make this a quick dinner if you want. Get you home to rest. No, I'm fine. I pulled my hand back, reaching for my water glass. I want to celebrate. We should enjoy this. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief? Satisfaction? It was gone before I could identify it, replaced by his usual warmth. The appetizers arrived. Oysters. Perfectly presented on a bed of ice. Adam ordered me another glass of wine, the expensive Bordeaux he knew I loved. The server who brought it was different, an older woman with a professional smile. Not the young man who'd given me the pills. I moved food around my plate, pretending to eat, watching my husband across the candlelight. 15 years. I'd trusted him with everything. My home, my finances, my heart. I'd added his name to my bank accounts, made him the executor of my will. He knew every detail of the property sale, had reviewed every document. $9.5 million had just been transferred into accounts bearing both our names. You're not drinking your wine, Adam observed. Saving it for the main course. Smart? He smiled, but there was something predatory in it now. Or maybe I was seeing things that had always been there, hidden in plain sight. My purse sat beside my chair, heavy with secrets. The pills inside felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. Adam, I said carefully, tell me something. If you needed money, a large amount of money, would you ask me for it? He blinked, surprised by the question. Of course. Why would you ask that? Just wondering. We've never really discussed it. Our finances are separate, mostly. Your pension, my properties. Were your properties, he corrected gently. Past tense. You're a woman of liquid assets now. The way he said it made my skin prickle. True, I acknowledged. So if you needed help with something, a debt or a medical expense or anything like that, you'd tell me? Michelle, what's this about? He set down his fork, giving me his full attention. Is something wrong? No, I lied. I'm just thinking about the future, how we'll spend our time now. Maybe travel more like we've talked about. I'd love that. His shoulders relaxed. Europe, maybe. You've always wanted to see the Italian countryside. Yes, I said. That would be lovely. The main course arrived. 2 enormous steaks, perfectly seared. The server set them down with a flourish and retreated. Adam cut into his meat with practiced precision. I watched him eat. This man I thought I knew, and felt like I was seeing a stranger. I need to use the restroom, I said, standing. Of course. Take your time. I walked through the restaurant on legs that felt disconnected from my body. In the bathroom, I locked myself in a stall and pulled out the pills again, studying them under the harsh fluorescent light. What were they? What would they have done to me? And more importantly, why? My phone was in my hand before I'd consciously decided to use it. I pulled up my contacts, scrolling to a name I hadn't called in months. Linda Harper, an old friend from college who'd become a research chemist at the University of Pennsylvania. The text I sent was brief. Linda, I need your help urgently. Can I come by tomorrow? It's important. Her response came within seconds. Of course. Are you okay? I don't know yet, I typed back, but I need answers. I steadied myself against the marble counter, looking at my reflection in the mirror. Silver hair, pearl earrings, a pale blue dress that Thomas had always said brought out my eyes. I looked like exactly what I was. A respectable widow, a grandmother, a woman past her prime. But I was also a woman who'd built a successful real estate portfolio from scratch after her husband's death, who'd raised 2 children alone, who'd survived bankruptcy scares and legal battles, and the endless complications of property management. I'd learned to be tough when I needed to be, to ask hard questions, to trust my instincts. And right now, every instinct I had was screaming that I was in danger. I returned to the table. Adam looked up with a smile that no longer reached his eyes. Feeling better? Much, I said, and meant it. Because now I knew. Something was terribly, deeply wrong, and I was going to find out exactly what my husband was hiding, even if it destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. Sunday morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Adam made coffee in our sunny kitchen while I pretended to read the newspaper, the pills hidden in my jewelry box upstairs. He kissed my forehead before leaving for his morning tennis game, a routine so ordinary it felt obscene. I'll be back by noon, he said. Want me to pick up anything for lunch? No, I'm fine. I kept my voice light, casual. I might run a few errands. On a Sunday? You should rest, sweetheart. You worked so hard on that sale. Just some small things. Nothing strenuous. He studied me for a moment, and I wondered if he could see the fear I was working so hard to conceal. But then he smiled and grabbed his tennis bag. Don't overdo it. I'll see you soon. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I was upstairs, retrieving the pills and my purse. Linda had texted back at 7 a.m. I'm at the lab until 2. Come whenever you're ready. The University of Pennsylvania campus was quieter on Sundays, students still sleeping off Saturday night or buried in libraries. I found Linda in her research building, a converted brownstone that smelled of chemicals and old books. She met me at the door, concern etched across her face. Michelle, you look terrible. I feel terrible. I handed her the plastic bag. Can you tell me what these are? Linda held the pills up to the light, her chemist's eye already analyzing. Where did you get them? It's complicated. Can you test them? Today. Of course. She led me to her lab, a cramped space filled with equipment I couldn't begin to identify. This might take an hour or 2. Do you want to wait, or... I'll wait. She nodded, understanding that some questions didn't need asking. While she worked, I sat in her small office, trying to make sense of the impossible. Adam had been planning this for at least 2 weeks. That's when he'd made the reservation, when he'd approached the waiter. This wasn't impulse. This was premeditation. But why? My phone buzzed. A text from Caroline. Hey Mom, quick question. Did you change the password on the real estate account? I tried to log in to see the final sale documents and it's not working. I stared at the message, ice spreading through my veins. Caroline had access to that account because I'd given it to her years ago, when she'd helped me organize the property files. The password hadn't changed in 5 years, unless someone had changed it recently. When did you try to log in? I texted back. Just now. I wanted to download copies for my files. No rush, just let me know the new password when you can. I pulled up the account on my phone, trying my usual password. Access denied. My hands shook as I tried again, triple-checking each character. Access denied. Linda, I called out, my voice sharper than intended. How much longer? She appeared in the doorway, her expression grim. I've got preliminary results. Michelle, these are benzodiazepines. Specifically, a very high dose of midazolam. Do you know what that is? No. It's a sedative. At this dosage, it would render someone unconscious for hours, possibly longer, depending on body weight and other factors. She paused. This isn't recreational. This is the kind of thing used in medical procedures. Or what? Or when someone wants to completely incapacitate another person. Linda sat down across from me. Michelle, you need to tell me what's going on. Are you in danger? I don't know yet. I showed her Caroline's text. But I think my husband just locked me out of the account where $9.5 million is sitting. Linda's eyes widened. You need to call the bank, right now. It's Sunday, they're closed. Their fraud department isn't. Call them. She was right. I pulled up the bank's customer service number, my heart hammering. The automated system transferred me 3 times before I finally reached a human being, a woman with a professionally sympathetic voice who introduced herself as Patricia. I need to check on my accounts, I said. Someone may have changed my login credentials without authorization. I can help with that. I'll need to verify your identity first. I went through the security questions, providing my social security number, my mother's maiden name, my first pet's name. With each answer, Patricia's silence grew longer. Mrs. Winters, I'm showing that your login credentials were updated yesterday at 3:45 p.m. The request came from a verified device and included proper 2-factor authentication. That's impossible. I was at dinner at 3:45. The request was made from a mobile device registered to this account, an iPhone with the number ending in 4782. My phone. Adam must have used my phone while I was in the bathroom. Can you tell me the current balance in my commercial property proceeds account? Another pause. I'm sorry, Mrs. Winters, but I'm not showing you as an authorized user on that account anymore. The room tilted. Excuse me? The account ownership was modified yesterday evening at 8:32 p.m. You're no longer listed as a primary account holder. The current primary holder is Adam Winters. That's my husband. It was a joint account. How can I not be on my own account? According to our records, a request was submitted to convert the account from joint ownership to individual ownership in Mr. Winters' name only. The request included your digital signature and was properly notarized. I never signed anything like that. I understand your concern, Mrs. Winters. However, the documentation appears to be in order. If you believe there's been fraud, you'll need to file a formal complaint with our fraud department, and they'll investigate. How long will that take? Typically 3 to 5 business days for initial review. If the case requires further investigation, it could be several weeks. Several weeks. While Adam had access to nearly $10 million. What about transferring funds out of the account? I asked, my voice barely steady. Can he do that now? As the primary account holder, yes. Mr. Winters has full authority over the account. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Linda was watching me with a mixture of horror and determination. He stole it, I said. Somehow he forged my signature and took control of the entire account. Then we go to the police. And tell them what? That my husband of 15 years, who has legal access to our finances, moved money around in our accounts? They'll say it's a domestic dispute. Tell me to hire a lawyer. You need to hire a lawyer anyway. She was right, but it was Sunday. And every minute Adam had control of that account was a minute he could be draining it. I needed to understand what was happening before I made a move. One wrong step. One premature accusation and he'd disappear with everything. I need to go home, I said. I need to search his things. Michelle, if he tried to drug you, he won't hurt me. Not physically. I wasn't entirely sure that was true, but I said it with conviction anyway. He needs me conscious to sign more documents, to keep up appearances. Whatever his plan is, it requires my cooperation. Or your unconsciousness. I stood up, gathering my purse. Thank you for testing the pills. Can you keep them? Somewhere safe? Of course. But promise me you'll be careful. I promise. The drive home took 20 minutes, and every second of it I spent planning. I needed evidence. Documents, emails, anything that would explain what Adam was doing and why. The house would be empty for at least another hour. Plenty of time to search his office. Except his car was in the driveway when I pulled up. He was home early. I sat in my car for a moment, forcing my breathing to slow, my face to compose itself into normalcy. When I walked through the front door, Adam was in the living room, still in his tennis clothes, a drink in his hand despite the early hour. How were your errands? He asked. Fine. Short tennis game? Rain started. He gestured to the windows where clouds had indeed gathered. Didn't seem worth it. Where did you go? Just the pharmacy. Picked up my prescription. The lie came easily. Too easily. You seem tense. Still tired from yesterday? A bit. I set my purse down carefully, aware of the weight of my phone inside it. I think I'll take a bath, try to relax. Good idea. I'll make us a nice lunch while you do that. I went upstairs, my skin crawling with awareness of his eyes on my back. In our bedroom, I locked the door, something I never did, and pulled out my phone. I had 3 new texts, all from David. Mom, tried to call but you didn't answer. Something weird is going on with your accounts. Call me ASAP. I dialed his number. He picked up on the first ring. Mom, finally. Listen, I got a weird email this morning from some investment firm saying they're managing your portfolio now. Did you hire new advisors? What firm? Harrington Financial Management. They said Adam referred them, that you're restructuring your investments. But it seemed off, so I wanted to check. Harrington Financial. I'd never heard of them. David, I need you to do something for me, and I need you not to ask questions yet. Can you do that? Mom, you're scaring me. I'm all right, but I need you to research that firm. Find out who owns it, when it was established, everything you can. And don't tell anyone you're looking. Not even Caroline? Especially not Caroline. Not yet. I hated involving my children, but David had resources I didn't. Tech skills, connections in the business world. Can you do this today? I'm on it. But Mom, what's going on? I'll explain soon. I promise. Just be discreet. I hung up and ran water for the bath I wouldn't take, making noise to cover the sound of my movements. Then I crept to the bedroom door and listened. Downstairs, Adam was talking to someone on the phone. His voice was low, but I caught fragments through the old house's thin walls. Tomorrow morning. Transfer should clear by Tuesday. No, she doesn't suspect anything. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. Told you, it's handled. The documentation is perfect. Even if she goes to the police, by the time they investigate, I couldn't hear the rest. I eased the door open a crack, straining to catch more. Seattle by Wednesday. Yes, with the full amount. She'll never find us. Seattle. Where David lived. Was my own son involved in this? No. That was impossible. David had just warned me about Harrington Financial. Unless that was part of the plan. A way to seem innocent while Adam executed whatever scheme they'd concocted together. I was spiraling, seeing conspiracies everywhere. I needed facts, not paranoia. The water was still running. I turned it off and sat on the edge of the tub trying to think clearly. Adam was planning to transfer money tomorrow morning. He was going to Seattle by Wednesday. He thought I didn't suspect anything. I still had time. Not much, but some. My phone buzzed. An email from the bank, confirming a scheduled wire transfer for Monday morning. $9,200,000. Destination, an account at First National Bank of Seattle. All of it. He was taking all of it. The email had been sent to my old address, the one I rarely checked anymore. He must have forgotten to remove me from the notifications when he'd changed the account ownership. It was the first mistake he'd made, and I was going to use it. I came downstairs 20 minutes later, hair damp, wearing a bathrobe. Adam was in the kitchen, making sandwiches with the careful attention he brought to everything. 15 years of marriage, and I'd thought that attention meant he cared. Now I saw it for what it was. Control, precision, the mark of a man who planned every detail. "Feeling better?" he asked. "Much." I smiled at him, and it felt like my face might crack from the effort. "I was thinking, maybe we should celebrate the sale properly. Take a trip somewhere. We could leave next week." "Next week?" Something flickered in his expression. Alarm, quickly masked. "That's so soon. We'd need to plan, make arrangements. We have the money now. We can afford to be spontaneous." "True, but I have client meetings scheduled, court appearances. I can't just leave." "Of course." I took a sandwich from the plate he offered. "I forgot how busy you are. But we'll definitely travel. Soon. I promise." He was lying. By Wednesday, according to what I'd overheard, he'd be in Seattle with $9 million, and I'd be here with nothing but questions and a locked bank account. Unless I stopped him first. "Adam," I said carefully, "have you heard of Harrington Financial Management?" His hand froze halfway to his coffee cup. Just for a second, but I saw it. "Can't say I have. Why?" "Oh, David mentioned them. Just curious. David talks to you about investment firms?" "Sometimes. You know how he is with business things." Adam relaxed slightly. "Well, I've never heard of them. Must be some Seattle outfit." "Probably." We ate in silence. The sandwich tasted like cardboard, but I forced it down, maintaining the pretense of normalcy. All the while, my mind was racing. Tomorrow morning, he'd try to transfer the money. I had less than 24 hours to figure out how to stop him, how to expose him, how to protect everything I'd spent a lifetime building. And I had to do it without him knowing I knew. Because if Adam realized I'd discovered his plan, I had no idea what he might do. The pills Linda was testing proved he was willing to drug me. What else was he willing to do? I looked across the table at my husband, this man I'd shared my life with for 15 years, and realized I was looking at a stranger who was trying to destroy me. Sunday night, Adam fell asleep beside me, his breathing deep and regular while I stared at the ceiling and planned. At 2 a.m., when I was certain he wouldn't wake, I slipped out of bed and went downstairs to his office. The room was meticulously organized as always. File cabinets labeled by year, a desk with nothing on it but a lamp and a pen holder, bookshelves arranged by subject. Adam's legal mind demanded order in all things. But everyone has secrets. Everyone makes mistakes. I started with the file cabinets, working by the light of my phone, careful not to make noise. Tax returns going back 15 years, all joint, all showing his modest attorney's salary and my property income. Investment statements for his retirement accounts. Insurance policies. Nothing unusual. The desk drawers yielded more of the same. Office supplies, old case files, a folder of restaurant menus for some reason. I was about to give up when I noticed something odd about the bottom drawer. It seemed shallower than it should be, given the cabinet's external dimensions. I pulled it all the way out and felt along the bottom. There, a slight gap. I pressed, and a false bottom popped up, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a manila folder, thick with documents. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first page was a birth certificate. Melissa Ann Winters, born April 15, 2003 in Portland, Oregon. Mother, Jennifer Winters. Father, Adam Thomas Winters. Adam had a daughter, 22 years old. The next document was a marriage certificate. Adam Thomas Winters and Jennifer Marie Caldwell, married June 8, 2001 in Portland, Oregon. He'd been married before. He'd told me his previous marriage was brief, childless, ending in an amicable divorce. He'd said his ex-wife had moved to Europe, that they'd lost touch. Another lie. I kept reading, my horror growing with each page. Divorce papers, but dated 2019, 6 years after Adam and I had married, which meant he'd been married to both of us. For 6 years, he'd maintained 2 separate lives. There were bank statements for an account I'd never heard of, showing regular transfers. $10,000 a month, every month, going back years. Payments to various medical facilities in Oregon, Oregon Health and Science University, Portland Children's Hospital, Pacific Northwest Cancer Center. And then I found the medical records. Melissa Winters, diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia in 2018. Treatment ongoing, prognosis uncertain. His daughter had leukemia. I sat back, the papers scattered across the desk, trying to process what I was seeing. Adam had a sick daughter, a daughter who needed expensive medical treatment, and he'd been funneling money to her for years. My money, siphoned from our joint accounts in amounts small enough that I'd never noticed. But apparently it hadn't been enough. There were more recent documents, estimates from treatment centers, experimental therapies not covered by insurance, clinical trials in Seattle, with participation fees in the hundreds of thousands, a letter from a specialist recommending immediate enrollment in a new program. Cost, $4 million. $4 million he didn't have. Until I sold my properties. I heard a sound upstairs, Adam stirring. I shoved everything back into the folder, replaced the false bottom, closed the drawer. My heart was hammering as I crept out of the office and back upstairs, sliding into bed just as Adam's breathing changed. Michelle? His voice was sleepy. You okay? Just needed water. Go back to sleep. He rolled over, and within minutes his breathing had deepened again. I lay rigid beside him, my mind racing. Part of me, a small, traitorous part, almost understood. A sick daughter, desperate medical bills. The kind of situation that could make someone do terrible things. But he'd lied. For years he'd lied. He'd married me while still married to someone else. He'd stolen from me, forged documents, tried to drug me. Whatever sympathy I might have felt was drowned by the betrayal and the questions. So many questions. If Jennifer divorced him in 2019, why had he kept lying to me? Why not just tell me about Melissa, ask for help with her medical bills? I might have said yes. I might have understood. Unless there was more to the story. Unless the truth was even worse than what I'd discovered. I waited until dawn, until Adam left for his morning run, another routine so normal it felt obscene. The moment he was gone, I called David. Mom, it's 6 a.m. on a Monday. I need everything you found on Harrington Financial, now. He was instantly alert. Okay, so, here's the weird thing. The company only exists on paper. It was incorporated 3 weeks ago in Delaware. The listed owner is something called HFM Holdings, LLC, which is owned by another LLC, which is owned by another one. It's a shell game. Can you find out who really owns it? I'm trying, but whoever set this up knew what they were doing. It's going to take time to untangle. He paused. Mom, what's going on? You're scaring me. I wanted to tell him. Wanted to unload everything I'd discovered. But something held me back. David, I need you to answer a question honestly. Has Adam ever contacted you about investment opportunities? Or asked you for help with anything financial? Adam? No, never. We barely talk. You know that. It was true. Adam and my children had always been cordial but distant. David had never warmed to his stepfather, though he'd been polite for my sake. Why would you ask that? David pressed. Just checking something. Keep researching that company, but be careful. Don't let anyone know what you're doing. You're really freaking me out. I know, I'm sorry, I'll explain soon. I hung up and called Caroline next. She answered on the first ring, her voice tight with worry. Mom, thank goodness. I've been trying to call you since yesterday. I'm sorry, honey. Things have been complicated. What's wrong? Adam called me Saturday night. Late, after your dinner. He said you'd had some kind of episode at the restaurant, that you'd seemed confused and disoriented. He wanted to know about your medical history, if you'd ever had memory problems or, Mom, do you have dementia? The world tilted. I absolutely do not have dementia. That's what I thought. You seemed perfectly fine when we talked Saturday. But Adam said, what exactly did Adam say? That he was worried about you. That the stress of the property sale might have been too much. He asked if I'd support getting you evaluated by a neurologist. Maybe consider having someone help manage your affairs. Her voice dropped. He asked if I'd be willing to sign papers supporting a competency evaluation. My blood ran cold. And what did you tell him? I told him I needed to talk to you first. Mom, what's happening? You sound strange. Caroline, listen to me very carefully. Do not sign anything Adam gives you. Do not discuss my health or my finances with him. And do not tell him I told you this. You're scaring me now, too. I know. I'm sorry. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Of course, but no buts. Just trust me. I'll explain everything soon. I ended the call and sat down, my legs suddenly weak. Adam wasn't just stealing my money. He was building a case for incompetency. If he could convince my children I was mentally unfit, if he could get doctors to agree, he could take control of everything, make decisions on my behalf, lock me away in some facility while he drained every account I had. The pills made sense now. Not to kill me. That would raise too many questions. But to make me seem confused, disoriented, to support his narrative of cognitive decline. How long had he been planning this? My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Michelle Winters? A woman's voice, young, strained. Yes. Who is this? My name is Jennifer. Jennifer Winters. I think we need to talk about Adam. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. Mrs. Winters? Are you there? I'm here, I managed. I'm sorry to call like this. I've been debating for weeks whether to reach out, but I can't let him do this to you. Do what to me? Whatever he's planning. Whatever lies he's told you. She took a shaky breath. Adam and I were married for 18 years. We have a daughter together, Melissa. She's sick. She has leukemia. I know. I found the medical records. Silence. Then, he told me you didn't know. He said he was keeping it secret until he could secure the money for her treatment. He's been stealing from me, forging documents. He tried to drug me Saturday night. Oh my... Jennifer's voice broke. I didn't know it had gone that far. I knew he was desperate, but I thought, tell me everything. Please. The story poured out. Adam had married Jennifer in 2001, fresh out of law school. They'd had Melissa 2 years later. The marriage had been troubled from the start. Adam's controlling nature, his obsession with money and status, his inability to accept anything less than perfection. When Melissa got sick in 2018, everything got worse, Jennifer said. Adam became fixated on saving her, no matter the cost. He started taking cases he shouldn't have, cutting ethical corners. He was sanctioned by the Bar Association, almost disbarred. That's when I filed for divorce. But he told me his first marriage ended years before we met. I know. He told me you were just a client at first, that helping you with your properties was strictly professional. I only found out he'd married you when I saw the marriage announcement in the paper. We were still married. Technically, his marriage to you was never legal. My mind reeled. We were never actually married? No. I'm sorry, but there's more. Jennifer's voice hardened. The medical bills for Melissa, they're real. The leukemia is real. But Adam isn't paying for treatment out of love. He's paying out of guilt. Guilt? Because he's the reason she's sick. I waited, knowing I didn't want to hear what came next, but needing to hear it anyway. When Melissa was 10, Adam took her camping. Just the two of them. There was an accident. He was careless with the campfire and there was a gas container nearby. It exploded. Melissa was burned, badly. She needed multiple surgeries, skin grafts. And somewhere in all those procedures, she contracted hepatitis C from a contaminated blood transfusion. The hepatitis led to complications, and years later, the leukemia developed. Oh my. The doctors say the leukemia probably isn't related to the hepatitis, but Adam doesn't believe them. He's convinced it's his fault, and he's been trying to fix it ever since, no matter who he has to hurt in the process. My voice came out as a whisper. Why are you telling me this? Because Melissa called me yesterday. She said Adam visited her, told her he'd finally secured the funding for the Seattle trial. $4 million, he said. He told her not to worry about where it came from, that he'd handled everything. Jennifer paused. My daughter is 22 years old, Mrs. Winters. She's not a child. She asked him directly if he'd done something illegal to get the money. What did he say? He told her that some things were worth breaking the rules for, that she was worth it, that she shouldn't ask questions, just get ready for treatment. Her voice shook. Melissa has been through enough. I won't let her recovery be built on someone else's destruction. And I won't let her live the rest of her life knowing her father destroyed an innocent woman to save her. What do you want me to do? I want to help you stop him. I have documents, records of Adam's prior misconduct, evidence of his instability, his controlling behavior, things that might help you legally, and I'm willing to testify to everything I know. Why would you help me? Melissa is your daughter, and she's Adam's daughter too, but she's also a good person who would be horrified if she knew the full truth. Jennifer's voice firmed with resolve. Besides, there are other ways to get funding for medical trials. Legitimate ways. I've been working with patient advocacy groups, researching grants and assistance programs. It's slower, harder, but it's right. Adam has never understood the difference between doing whatever it takes and doing the right thing. I looked at the clock. 8 a.m. The banks would open in an hour. Adam would try to transfer the money at 9. Can you send me those documents? Now? Yes. What's your email? I gave it to her, then asked, Where are you? Portland. But I can be on a plane to Philadelphia tonight if you need me. I might. Let me see what happens today. A thought occurred to me. Jennifer, does Adam know you're calling me? God, no. He'd lose his mind. Good. Don't tell him. Don't tell anyone, not even Melissa. Not yet. Okay, but Mrs. Winters, be careful. When Adam feels cornered, when his plans start falling apart, he gets dangerous. Not physically violent, but he'll do whatever he can to regain control. He'll manipulate, he'll lie, he'll turn people against you. He's already tried. Then you know. Just watch yourself. We hung up. My email pinged almost immediately. Jennifer worked fast. I downloaded the attachments, court documents from Adam's Bar Association hearing, medical records for Melissa, divorce papers, financial statements showing Adam's debts, and photographs. Adam with Jennifer and a young Melissa, smiling at the camera. The same smile he'd given me across the table Saturday night, right before he tried to drug me. More photos. Melissa in the hospital, thin and pale but alive. Fighting. A 22-year-old girl who had no idea her father was a bigamist and a thief. I heard Adam's car in the driveway. He was back from his run, right on schedule. I had 1 hour before the banks opened, 1 hour to decide my next move. I could call the police, but with what proof? The pills Linda had tested could be explained away. Adam could claim I was confused, that they were my own medication. The forged documents giving him control of my account looked legitimate enough to fool the bank. And I had no proof he'd actually tried to drug me, just the word of a waiter who'd probably deny everything if pressed. I could call a lawyer, but it was Monday morning. Even if I found someone willing to see me today, what could they do before 9 a.m.? Or I could do what I'd been doing my whole life. Handle it myself. Adam came through the door, sweaty and cheerful. Morning, sweetheart. Sleep well? Very well, I lied. Adam, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about being tired from the sale. Yes? You might be right. Maybe I should see a doctor, just to make sure everything's okay. His eyes lit up, actually lit up with satisfaction. That's a wonderful idea. I can make you an appointment with Dr. Harrison. He's excellent, very thorough. I'd appreciate that. I'll call him right now. He practically ran to his office. I heard him on the phone, voice low and urgent. Making arrangements, no doubt, with a doctor who was probably in on the scheme. Another piece of his plan falling into place. Or so he thought. Because Adam had made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me. At 8:45 a.m., I sat in our living room with a cup of tea I hadn't touched, watching Adam prepare for what he thought would be his victory. He'd showered, dressed in his best suit, and was now gathering papers from his office. No doubt the forged documents he'd need to complete the transfer. I have to run to the bank, he said, kissing my forehead. Just some routine paperwork. I'll be back in an hour and then we can head to Dr. Harrison's office together. He had a cancellation and can see you at 11. That's convenient, I said. Very. I explained the situation, your confusion at the restaurant, your memory issues. He's concerned and wants to run some tests. What memory issues, Adam? He sat down beside me, taking my hand in his. The gesture that used to feel comforting now made my skin crawl. Sweetheart, I know you don't see it. That's part of the problem. But you've been forgetting things. Small things at first, where you put your keys, whether you took your medication. But lately, it's gotten worse. Has it? Saturday night, you were disoriented at the restaurant. You couldn't remember what you'd ordered. You seemed confused about where we were. The lie was so smooth, so confident. He'd probably practiced it. I don't remember that, I said carefully. Exactly. That's what worries me. He squeezed my hand. But Dr. Harrison will help. We'll figure this out together. I watched him leave, waited for his car to disappear down the street, then moved fast. First call, Linda. Are you at the lab? Yes, why? I need you to write a formal report on those pills. Technical language, official letterhead, the works. And I need it in the next 30 minutes. Michelle, what are you planning? Something risky. Can you do it? I'll have it done in 20 minutes. Second call. My own bank, not the one where the property proceeds sat. This is Michelle Winters. I need to speak with your fraud department immediately. It's an emergency. They transferred me to a supervisor named Michael Evans, who listened as I explained the situation in rapid, precise terms. My husband has forged documents to take control of an account at First National. He's attempting to transfer $9 million this morning. I have evidence of forgery, bigamy, and attempted drugging. Mrs. Winters, these are serious accusations. Do you have proof? I have the drugs he tried to use on me, currently being analyzed by a university chemist. I have testimony from his actual wife. He was married to her when he married me, making our marriage invalid and his access to my accounts fraudulent. And I have documents showing he's been embezzling from our joint accounts for years. I'll need to see all of this. You will. But first, I need you to contact First National and flag any transfers from the commercial property account in my name. Tell them there's an active fraud investigation. I can't just call another bank and then call the police, call the FBI, call whoever you need to call. But if that money leaves the account, I'll hold your bank responsible for failing to act on a reported fraud. It was a bluff. I had no idea if that would hold up legally, but my voice carried the conviction of someone who'd spent decades managing difficult tenants, negotiating with aggressive developers, and refusing to be pushed around. Michael Evans hesitated, then, "Give me the account details." I did, along with every piece of information I had. "I'm sending you documentation right now, email and text. I'll do what I can, Mrs. Winters, but you should file a police report immediately." "I will, thank you." Third call. Caroline. "Honey, I need you to do something. Call Adam right now and tell him you've reconsidered, that you're willing to talk about my competency evaluation. Keep him on the phone as long as possible." "Mom, what's going on?" "Please, Caroline. Trust me. I'll explain everything soon, but right now I need you to keep him distracted." "Okay, but you're really freaking me out." "I know. I love you." Fourth call. David. "Did you find anything else on Harrington Financial?" "Actually, yes. I traced it back through the shell companies. The ultimate owner is listed as R.T. Winters Consulting. R.T. Winters. Adam Thomas Winters. He created a fake company to manage my money? Looks like it. And Mom, there's more. I found out where the company is registered. There's a physical address in Seattle. I pulled up the property records. Want to guess who lives there? Tell me." "A woman named Jennifer Winters and her daughter Melissa. The property is owned by an LLC that Adam set up in 2018. My mind raced. He bought them a house? Or he's planning to. The LLC exists, but the property purchase isn't finalized yet, like he was waiting for funding. David paused. "Mom, who are Jennifer and Melissa?" "His real family," I said quietly. "The one he forgot to mention when he married me." Silence. Then, "I'm getting on a plane. I'll be there tonight." "David, no. It's too expensive and—" "Mom, my stepfather is a bigamist who's trying to steal your money. I'm coming home. End of discussion." He hung up before I could argue. I sat for a moment, letting the pieces fall into place. The house in Seattle, the Harrington Financial Shell Company, the money transfer scheduled for this morning. Adam wasn't just stealing my money for Melissa's medical treatment. He was buying Jennifer and Melissa a house, setting up a management company in his name, creating a whole new financial structure where he controlled everything, and I was supposed to be either locked away in a facility for dementia patients or so drugged and confused that I couldn't fight back. My phone buzzed, a text from Caroline. Talked to Adam for 15 minutes. He seemed annoyed but tried to hide it. What's happening? 15 minutes. That might have been enough. Another text, this one from Linda. Report attached. Call me when you can. I opened the attachment. 3 pages of technical analysis, complete with spectroscopy results and chemical formulas I didn't understand, all concluding that the pills contained a dangerous dose of midazolam, a controlled substance that would have rendered me unconscious for hours. Perfect. I forwarded everything to Michael Evans at my bank, then composed a careful email to First National's fraud department with all the documentation attached. Jennifer's divorce papers proving Adam was married to someone else when he married me. The property records showing his attempt to buy a house in Seattle. Linda's analysis of the drugs. David's research on Harrington Financial. Each piece of evidence on its own might seem circumstantial. Together, they painted a clear picture of fraud. I hit send just as I heard a car in the driveway. Adam was back, early. I shoved my phone under a couch cushion and picked up my tea, forcing my hands to stay steady. When he walked in, his face was flushed, his movements tight with barely controlled anger. The transfer didn't go through, he said. Oh? Why not? Some issue with the bank's system. They said there was a flag on the account. His eyes narrowed. Did you call them? Why would I call them? I can't even access the account, remember? Right. He set down his briefcase with controlled precision. Of course. It's probably just a routine security check. I'll go back this afternoon. What about my doctor's appointment? We'll reschedule. This is more important. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. I need to make some calls. He went into his office and closed the door. I could hear his voice rising, the tone sharp and demanding. Whoever he was talking to wasn't giving him the answers he wanted. I retrieved my phone and checked my email. A response from Michael Evans. First National has frozen the account pending investigation. Local police have been notified. FBI Financial Crimes Division has been copied on all documentation. You should expect a call from investigators today. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by fear. The money was safe, for now, but Adam would know someone had interfered. And when he figured out it was me, the office door slammed open. Adam stood in the doorway, his face pale with fury. You, he said. You did this. I set down my tea with a steady hand. Did what? Don't play games with me, Michelle. The bank told me someone filed a fraud report. Who else would it be? Maybe your other wife? The words hung in the air between us. For a moment, Adam looked genuinely shocked. Then his expression shifted, calculating, adjusting to this new reality. So you know, he said finally. I know you're a bigamist. I know you've been stealing from me for years. I know you have a daughter with leukemia, and I know you tried to drug me Saturday night so you could forge more documents. I stood up, surprised by how calm I felt. What I don't know is whether you actually care about any of us, or if we're all just resources to be exploited. You don't understand, Adam said, his voice low and dangerous. Melissa is dying. She needs treatment that costs millions. I did what I had to do. You could have asked me for help. And you would have said yes? To give millions to a daughter you didn't know existed, from a marriage I never told you about? He laughed bitterly. You're not that naive, Michelle. You're right. I wouldn't have given you millions, but I might have given you something. And I definitely would have helped you find legitimate funding sources. Instead, you chose to lie, to steal, to destroy everything we built together. We built together? His voice dripped with contempt. You inherited everything from your precious Thomas. You didn't build anything. You just managed not to lose what someone else gave you. The cruelty of it took my breath away, but it also crystallized something for me. This was who Adam really was, not the gentle, supportive husband I thought I'd married. but this bitter, entitled man who saw other people as means to an end. Get out, I said quietly. This is my house, too. Actually, it's not. It's in my name only. Thomas left it to me, and I never added you to the deed. So get out, or I'll call the police right now. His jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. I can still fix this. We can work together. To do what? To steal my money? To convince my children I have dementia? To drug me into compliance? I pulled my phone out. I said get out. For a moment, I thought he might refuse, might try to physically stop me from calling, but then something shifted in his expression. Defeat, or maybe just a tactical retreat. Fine, he said, but this isn't over, Michelle. I have rights. We've been married for 15 years. We were never married. You were already married when you put that ring on my finger, which means you have no rights to anything of mine. That's not how the law works. Pennsylvania is a common law state. We've lived as husband and wife. While you were committing bigamy and fraud, I don't think any judge is going to be sympathetic to your property claims. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw him cycling through strategies, the charm that usually worked on me, the logical arguments he used so effectively in court, the subtle manipulations he'd employed for years. None of them would work anymore, and he knew it. I'll be at the Hilton downtown, he said finally. When you calm down and think rationally about this, call me. We can work something out that benefits both of us. And Melissa. The mention of his daughter was meant to make me feel guilty, I realized. To remind me that a sick young woman was caught in the middle of this. Melissa deserves better than a father who finances her treatment through theft and lies, I said. And for what it's worth, I hope she gets the help she needs. But not with my money, and not through your schemes. Adam grabbed his briefcase and walked to the door. Then he turned back, and the mask slipped entirely. What I saw in his face was pure, cold calculation. You've just made the biggest mistake of your life, he said softly. I've spent 15 years learning everything about you, Michelle. Your finances, your weaknesses, your children. You think you've won because you froze one account? I have documentation you've signed over the years. Powers of attorney, financial authorizations, healthcare directives, all perfectly legal, all giving me authority over your affairs. Forged signatures aren't legal. Prove they're forged. I'll bring in handwriting experts who'll testify that they're genuine. I'll bring in the witnesses who watched you sign them, colleagues, notaries, all respectable people who have no reason to lie. He smiled, and it was terrifying. And I'll bring in Dr. Harrison, who'll testify that you showed signs of cognitive decline months ago, that I've been trying to help you, to protect you from making poor decisions in your diminished state. No one will believe you. Won't they? You're a 63-year-old woman who just sold property worth millions. The stress of that sale, combined with your age, it's not hard to build a narrative of someone whose mental faculties are slipping, especially when I have documentation of erratic behavior, poor decision-making, paranoid accusations. He was already building the case, already constructing the story he'd tell. Caroline and David won't support you, I said. Caroline is already worried about you. I planted those seeds Saturday night. And David, he's 3,000 miles away, barely knows me, barely visits you. He won't be a credible witness to your mental state. Adam adjusted his tie, his composure returning. You should have taken the easy way, Michelle. A few pills, a peaceful night's sleep, wake up to find the paperwork already filed. No conflict, no drama. Just a smooth transition of assets to someone who could actually use them for something important. Saving your daughter by destroying me? Saving my daughter, period. The cost was unfortunate, but necessary. He left then, closing the door behind him with a gentle click that was somehow more frightening than a slam would have been. I stood in my living room, my home of 18 years, and felt the full weight of what I was facing. Adam wasn't going to slink away quietly. He was going to fight, using every tool at his disposal. Legal expertise, forged documents, character assassination. And he was right about one thing. I was a 63-year-old woman, going up against an attorney who'd spent 15 years positioning himself for exactly this scenario. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Winters? This is Detective Pauline Hanson with the Philadelphia Police Department, White Collar Crimes Division. I understand you've filed a fraud complaint against your husband. I'd like to come by and take your statement if that's convenient. Yes, I said. That would be very convenient. I can be there in 30 minutes. Perfect. Detective, there's something you should know. My husband just threatened me. He said he has forged documents that give him power of attorney over my affairs, and he's planning to use them to claim I'm mentally incompetent. Did he threaten you physically? No, but he's an attorney. He knows how to intimidate without crossing legal lines. I understand. Mrs. Winters, do you have somewhere safe you can stay tonight? Friends or family? The question startled me. This is my house. I know, but if your husband is as sophisticated as you suggest, he may try to re-enter the property, claim it as a marital residence. It could get complicated legally. For tonight, until we sort this out, it might be better if you were somewhere else. I thought about Caroline in Boston, David flying in from Seattle. My son is coming into town tonight. Good. Don't be alone until we have a better handle on this situation. And Mrs. Winters, don't sign anything. Don't discuss the case with anyone except your attorney, and document everything. Every phone call, every interaction, every threat. I will. See you in 30 minutes. I hung up and looked around my home. The house where I'd raised my children, where I'd grieved Thomas, where I'd foolishly let Adam into my life. Tomorrow, it might not feel like mine anymore. Tomorrow, I might be fighting for every piece of my identity, my autonomy, my right to control my own life. But today, right now, I still had my wits, my resources, and enough evidence to fight back. Adam had made one crucial miscalculation. He'd assumed that age meant weakness, that being a widow meant being vulnerable, that 15 years of manipulation had made me dependent on him. He'd forgotten that I'd survived losing the love of my life, raising 2 children alone, and building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio in a male-dominated industry. If he wanted a war, I'd give him one. But I'd fight it my way, with intelligence, preparation, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing you're in the right. The doorbell rang. Detective Hanson was early. I went to answer it, straightening my shoulders, lifting my chin. This was just the beginning. Detective Pauline Hanson was younger than I'd expected, perhaps 40, with sharp eyes and an air of competence that immediately put me at ease. She sat in my living room with a notepad and a recording device, listening as I laid out everything I'd discovered over the past 36 hours. "Let me make sure I understand," she said when I finished. "Your husband, or the man you believed was your husband, attempted to drug you Saturday night, forged documents to steal $9 million, and has been committing bigamy for the past 15 years. That's correct. And you have physical evidence of the drugs, testimony from his legal wife Jennifer, and documentation of the financial fraud." "Yes, I can provide all of it." Detective Hanson made notes, her expression carefully neutral. "Mrs. Winters, I have to ask, did you confront your husband before filing the fraud report?" "No. I filed the report first, then confronted him when the transfer failed." "Smart." She looked up from her notepad. "Most people do it the other way around, which gives the perpetrator time to destroy evidence or flee. You've made my job easier. I spent 23 years managing rental properties," I said. "You learn to document everything and trust no one. Good instincts." She hesitated. "I should tell you, though. Mr. Winters called our department an hour ago." My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" "He filed a missing person report on you. Said you left the house this morning, seemed confused and disoriented, and he's worried about your safety. He also mentioned that you have declining cognitive function, and may be a danger to yourself. The audacity of it took my breath away. He's preemptively building his incompetency case. That's my assessment as well. Which is why I'm documenting very clearly that you are lucid, coherent, and making detailed, consistent statements backed by physical evidence." Detective Hanson leaned forward. "Mrs. Winters, I'm going to be frank with you. This case has layers that will take weeks to fully investigate. The bigamy charge alone requires coordination with Oregon authorities. The financial fraud involves multiple jurisdictions. And the attempted drugging. that's the most serious charge, but it relies heavily on the waiter's testimony, which may be difficult to obtain. He was paid $500 to commit a crime. Why wouldn't he testify? Because Mr. Winters is an attorney who knows how to intimidate witnesses. He could claim the waiter is lying, that there's no proof of any payment. Without bank records showing that transaction, it's your word against your husband's. But the pills are evidence that someone attempted to drug you. They don't prove your husband was the one who tried. She held up a hand before I could protest. I believe you, Mrs. Winters. Everything you've told me fits a clear pattern of financial abuse and manipulation. But I need you to understand what you're up against. Mr. Winters has 15 years of established history as your spouse, access to your medical records, and the legal expertise to make this very complicated. So what do I do? You fight smart. You've already done that by freezing the account and gathering evidence. Now you need to go on the offensive. Detective Hansen pulled out a business card. This is a colleague of mine, Ida Vance. She's an attorney who specializes in elder financial abuse. Call her today. Tell her I referred you. I'm not elderly, I said, more sharply than intended. No, but legally. Anyone over 60 qualifies for enhanced protections under Pennsylvania law. Ms. Vance can file emergency motions to protect your assets, contest any powers of attorney your husband claims to have, and most importantly, she can get you a competency evaluation from an independent doctor before Mr. Winters does. I took the card. Won't that be expensive? Very. But you have $9 million at stake. This isn't the time to worry about attorney's fees. She was right, of course. But the idea of spending my money to fight the man who'd tried to steal it felt like another violation on top of everything else. Detective Hansen stood. I'll be in touch as the investigation proceeds. In the meantime, I want you to be very careful. Don't meet with Mr. Winters alone. Don't sign anything. Don't let him back in this house. What if he has a key? Change the locks. Today. She paused at the door. Mrs. Winters, I've worked white-collar crimes for 12 years. I've seen a lot of sophisticated fraud schemes. This one, it's particularly cruel because of the personal betrayal involved. But I've also seen a lot of victims who were too intimidated or ashamed to fight back. You're not one of them. That gives you a real advantage. After she left, I sat for a moment, letting the weight of it all settle on my shoulders. Then I called Ida Vance. She could see me at 2 p.m. Next, I called a locksmith. He could come at 3. Then I texted both my children. Family emergency. I need you both here as soon as possible. We'll explain everything when you arrive. Caroline responded immediately. On my way. Be there by 6. David. Landing at 8 tonight. I spent the next hour organizing my evidence into folders. One for the police, one for my attorney, one for my own records. Linda's drug analysis, Jennifer's documents, David's research on Harrington Financial, bank statements showing Adam's systematic theft over the years, now that I knew what to look for. The numbers were staggering. Over 15 years, he'd taken nearly $800,000 in small, careful increments. Money I'd never missed because he was clever enough to disguise it as legitimate expenses. Home repairs that were never done, investment fees for accounts that didn't exist, charitable donations to organizations that turned out to be shell companies. $800,000, stolen so gradually I'd never noticed. My phone rang. Adam. I let it go to voicemail, but curiosity made me listen to the message. Michelle, please, we need to talk about this rationally. I know you're upset, and I understand why. But throwing away 15 years over a misunderstanding, that's not the woman I know. Call me, please. Let's work this out like adults. The gentle, reasonable tone was the same one he'd used for years. The voice of a concerned husband, worried about his wife. If I'd heard it 3 days ago, I would have believed it. Now I heard it for what it was. Manipulation. The attorney's office was in Center City, a glass tower that screamed expensive. Ida Vance met me in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She was perhaps 50, with gray hair she made no attempt to hide, and eyes that missed nothing. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. First things first, she said when I finished. We need to establish your competency beyond any doubt. I'm going to arrange for you to see Dr. Sylvia Day. She's a geriatric psychiatrist who does independent evaluations for the court. She's not connected to anyone in this case, and her credentials are impeccable. How soon? I'll call her now. With luck, tomorrow morning. Ida pulled out her phone, had a brief conversation, then smiled. 9 a.m. tomorrow. She's doing this as a favor. Thank you. Next, I'm filing an emergency motion to freeze all joint accounts and prevent your husband from accessing any property or assets in your name. That should be granted by end of day tomorrow. He'll fight it. Of course he will. But the bigamy gives us a strong argument that he never had legal standing to access your assets in the first place. Ida leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Winters, I'm going to ask you something difficult. Do you want to press criminal charges? The police are already investigating. I mean personally. Do you want to pursue this to the fullest extent possible? Because if you do, we're talking about criminal fraud, forgery, attempted drugging, bigamy. Your husband could face serious prison time. I thought about Melissa, 22 years old and fighting for her life. Adam's daughter, who'd done nothing wrong except have a father willing to destroy other people to save her. I don't know, I admitted. You don't have to decide now. But think about it. Because when word gets out, and it will, about what he's done, there will be pressure from various directions. People will ask you to show mercy, to think about his daughter, to consider your own reputation. My reputation? You're a wealthy widow who married a con artist. Some people will wonder why you didn't see through him sooner. Others will paint you as vindictive for pursuing charges against a man trying to save his sick child. Ida's expression was sympathetic but firm. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying it's reality. You need to be prepared. She was right. I could already imagine the whispers, the judgment, the questions about my judgment, my intelligence, my culpability and my own deception. I can handle it, I said. I believe you can. Now, let's talk strategy. We spent the next hour going through every document, every piece of evidence, building a timeline of Adam's fraud. Ida was thorough and ruthless, poking holes in my story, anticipating every argument Adam's attorneys would make. The drug attempt is our strongest card, she said. It shows premeditation and malice, but we need that waiter's testimony. Do you have his name? No, just a description. We'll need to get a subpoena for the restaurant's employee records. That could take time. I might have a better way, I said, pulling out my phone. I'd saved the number for the Carrington Steakhouse. When the hostess answered, I asked for the manager. This is David Reeves. How can I help you? Mr. Reeves, my name is Michelle Winters. I dined at your establishment Saturday night, and there was an incident involving one of your servers that I need to discuss. I see. What kind of incident? The kind that involves a customer attempting to bribe a server to commit a crime. The kind that could result in serious legal consequences for your establishment if it's not handled properly. Silence. Then, perhaps we should discuss this in person. I think that would be wise. I can be there in an hour. I'll be waiting. Ida raised an eyebrow. Aggressive. I like it. I spent 20 years dealing with difficult tenants and unscrupulous contractors. You learn to be direct. David Reeves turned out to be a nervous man in his 50s who clearly wanted this problem to disappear. But when I showed him the pills and explained what had happened, his nervousness transformed into anger. A customer tried to drug another customer in my restaurant? Yes. And your server, a young man, early 20s, dark hair, refused to do it. He saved me. But now I need him to make a formal statement to the police. That would be Nicholas Cox. He's been with us for 2 years. Good kid. Reeves pulled out his phone. I'll call him now. 20 minutes later, Nicholas arrived, still in his street clothes. He looked terrified until I smiled at him. You saved my life, I said. I need you to know that. I couldn't do it. It felt wrong. It was wrong, and now I need you to tell the police exactly what happened. Will you do that? He glanced at his manager, who nodded encouragingly. Okay, yes, I'll do it. I called Detective Hansen immediately, arranged for her to meet us at the restaurant. Nicholas gave a detailed statement, describing Adam's approach 2 weeks earlier. The $500 in cash, The specific instructions about crushing the pills into my drink. Did he say why? Detective Hansen asked. He said his wife had a medical condition, that she needed to be sedated for her own safety. But the way he said it didn't sound medical. It sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Perfect. It established premeditation and showed Adam's attempt to justify his actions. When we finished, I shook Nicholas's hand. Thank you. Truly. I'm just glad you're okay, ma'am. Back at home, the locksmith had finished installing new deadbolts. I tested them twice, feeling a small measure of security return. Then Caroline arrived, her face tight with worry. Mom, what's going on? I sat her down and told her everything. She listened with growing horror, interrupting only to ask clarifying questions. He tried to drug you? Her voice shook. That man I've been calling my stepfather for 15 years tried to drug you? Yes. And he has another wife? Another daughter? Had another wife. She divorced him in 2019, but he never told me. Caroline stood up, pacing the living room. I can't believe all those times he acted so concerned about you, so caring. It was all calculated, I said quietly. Every word, every gesture, 15 years of performance. She sat back down heavily. What do you need from me? I need you to be prepared. Adam is going to claim I'm mentally incompetent. He may try to use you as a witness, say that you were worried about my cognitive decline. I'll tell everyone he's a liar. Thank you. But more importantly, I need you to help me prove I'm perfectly competent. I need witnesses to my mental state, my decision-making ability. Can you stay for a few days? I'm not leaving until this is resolved. David arrived at 8, looking exhausted but determined. I went through everything again for his benefit. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. So what's our next move? He asked finally. Tomorrow, I see a psychiatrist who will evaluate my competency. Wednesday, Ida files motions to freeze all joint accounts. Thursday, we find out if Adam has actually filed legal action claiming incompetency. And if he does, then we fight it. With evidence, with testimony, with everything we have. David nodded slowly. You know what this reminds me of? When Dad died and all those developers tried to pressure you into selling the properties for pennies on the dollar. Everyone thought you'd crack, that you couldn't handle the business, but you proved them all wrong. I was younger then. You're smarter now, Caroline said firmly. And you're not alone. You have us. I looked at my children, my real family, the people who'd stood by me through everything, and felt a surge of gratitude mixed with determination. There's something else you should know, I said. Adam's daughter, Melissa. She's sick. She has leukemia, and she needs expensive treatment. That's why he did all this, to get money for her care. That doesn't excuse, David started. No, it doesn't. But she's an innocent person caught in this. I want you both to remember that. When this goes public, when people start taking sides, Melissa is a victim too. Caroline frowned. You're being very generous to a girl whose father tried to destroy you. I'm being realistic. She's 22 years old, fighting cancer, and her father is about to be exposed as a criminal. That's enough punishment for anyone. I stood up, feeling suddenly exhausted. I'm going to bed. Tomorrow is a big day. But sleep wouldn't come. I lay in the dark, thinking about everything that had happened, everything that was still to come. Somewhere across the city, Adam was probably planning his next move, consulting with attorneys, preparing his counterattack. He'd underestimated me once. Would he make the same mistake again? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Winters, this is Jennifer. I'm at the airport. I couldn't stay away. If you need me to testify, I'm ready. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, Thank you. I might take you up on that. Her response came immediately. Whatever you need. Adam destroyed my life for years. I won't let him destroy yours. An ally I'd never expected. A woman who had every reason to hate me. The woman her husband had left her for, choosing instead to help me. Maybe that's what Adam had never understood. That women don't have to be enemies just because a man put them in competition. That we could choose solidarity over rivalry. That his manipulations only worked as long as we stayed isolated from each other. I set my phone aside, and finally slept, dreaming of courtrooms and confrontations, of truth finally coming to light. Tomorrow, I would prove I was exactly who I'd always been, a woman capable of handling her own affairs, making her own decisions, fighting her own battles. And Adam would learn that the greatest mistake he'd ever made was assuming my age made me weak. Doctor, Sylvia Day's office was nothing like I'd expected. Instead of sterile white walls and clinical furniture, it was warm and comfortable. Bookshelves lined with medical texts, soft lighting, chairs that actually looked inviting. The doctor herself was a woman in her late 60s with kind eyes and an air of unflappable calm. Mrs. Winters, thank you for coming on such short notice. Ida explained the situation. I understand you're facing accusations of cognitive decline. Accusations from a man trying to steal my money, yes. She smiled slightly. Well, let's establish the facts, shall we? The evaluation took 3 hours. Memory tests, logic puzzles, questions about current events, assessments of my judgment and decision-making abilities. Dr. Day was thorough but never condescending, treating me like an intelligent adult rather than a confused elderly woman. At the end, she set down her pen and looked at me directly. Mrs. Winters, I'm going to be frank. You are one of the sharpest 63-year-olds I've evaluated in my 30 years of practice. Your memory is excellent, your reasoning is sound, and your ability to analyze complex situations is well above average. If anything, you show cognitive function typical of someone 20 years younger. Relief flooded through me. You'll put that in writing? I'll have a full report to Ida by end of day, and if this goes to court, I'll testify to my findings. She leaned forward. Mrs. Winters, I see a lot of elder abuse cases, financial exploitation, families trying to declare competent people incompetent for their own gain. This case, it's particularly egregious because of the sophisticated planning involved, but you have something most victims don't. What's that? The wisdom to recognize what was happening and the strength to fight back immediately. Many people in your situation would have second-guessed themselves, wondered if they really were losing their faculties. You trusted your instincts. That's rare and valuable. I left her office feeling vindicated but also angry. Angry that I'd had to prove my own competency. That Adam's lies had forced me to defend my mental state to a stranger. Angry that at 63, people were so ready to believe I might be declining simply because of my age. Ida called as I was driving home. Dr. Day already sent me her preliminary notes. Michelle, this is perfect, airtight. No judge will question your competency with this evaluation. Good. What's next? I filed the emergency motions this morning. We have a hearing tomorrow at 2 p.m. Adam's attorney will be there. He hired Gerald Blackwood, by the way. I recognize the name. One of Philadelphia's top litigation attorneys, known for aggressive tactics and expensive billable hours. Of course he did, I said. Using what money, I wonder? Probably a retainer from past earnings. Or he's working on contingency, hoping to get a percentage of your assets once they win. Ida paused. Michelle, I need to prepare you. Blackwood is going to attack your credibility, your mental state, your motivations. He'll paint Adam as a devoted husband worried about his declining wife. Let him try. That's the spirit. I'll see you tomorrow at the courthouse. At home, Caroline was making dinner while David worked on his laptop at the kitchen table. The domestic normalcy of it felt surreal after the day I'd had. How did it go? Caroline asked. The doctor says I'm perfectly competent. Sharp even. Of course you are, David said without looking up from his screen. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with you can see that. Not everyone sees clearly when there's money involved. I sat down across from him. What are you working on? Following the money trail. Mom, Adam's been busy. I found 3 more shell companies linked to his name, all created in the past 6 months. He's been planning this for a while. Show me. David turned his laptop around. The screen showed a complex web of corporate entities, each linked to the next. See this? He created a consulting firm, which owns a management company, which owns an investment fund. All separate legal entities, but all controlled by him. My guess is he was planning to funnel your money through these companies to make it harder to trace. Can we prove it? I'm working on it. These kinds of corporate structures, They're designed to hide ownership, but everything leaves a digital trail if you know where to look. Caroline set plates on the table. I still can't believe he did all this. 15 years of lying, every single day. He probably didn't think of it as lying, I said quietly. He convinced himself it was justified. That he was doing it for Melissa, so it didn't count as wrong. That's not how morality works, David said. No, but it's how rationalization works. I looked at my children, grateful for their presence, their support. There's something I need to tell you both. I've been thinking about Melissa. Caroline's expression hardened. What about her? She's innocent in all this. She didn't ask her father to commit fraud, and she's fighting for her life. I don't want her to suffer because of what Adam did. Mom, you're not seriously thinking of giving them money. No, not directly. But there are legitimate funding sources for experimental treatments, patient advocacy groups, research grants, clinical trials with financial assistance. I'm going to hire someone to research those options and send the information to Jennifer. If Melissa qualifies for any of them, she should know. David and Caroline exchanged glances. You're a better person than I am, Caroline said finally. I'm a mother. If one of you were sick, I'd do anything, legal or not, to save you. I understand Adam's desperation, even if I can't forgive his choices. I paused. But understanding doesn't mean accepting. He still has to face consequences for what he did. The next day, the courthouse was exactly as intimidating as I remembered from the few times I'd been there over property disputes. Ida met me outside the courtroom, looking professional and confident in a dark blue suit. Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be. Adam was already inside with Gerald Blackwood, a silver-haired man with the kind of expensive suit that screamed success. Adam looked haggard, like he hadn't slept. Good. The judge was a woman in her 50s named Catherine Reeves. She reviewed the motions with an expression that gave nothing away, then looked up. Mr. Blackwood, your client is accused of financial fraud, forgery, bigamy, and attempted drugging. Those are serious charges. What's your response? Blackwood stood smoothly. Your Honor, these accusations are the product of a tragic misunderstanding exacerbated by Mrs. Winter's declining mental state. My client has been her devoted husband for 15 years, managing her affairs with her full knowledge and consent. The so-called forged documents were all signed willingly by Mrs. Winters, who unfortunately has become increasingly confused and paranoid in recent months. Do you have evidence of this mental decline? We have testimony from Dr. Harrison, who has treated Mrs. Winters and can attest to— Dr. Harrison has never treated me, I said clearly. I've never met him. The judge's eyebrow rose. Is that true, Mr. Blackwood? Dr. Harrison was prepared to evaluate Mrs. Winters at my client's request, based on observed symptoms. So he's never actually examined her? Not formally, but then his testimony about her mental state would be inadmissible. Judge Reeves turned to Ida. Ms. Vance, I assume you have an actual evaluation? Ida stood, handing documents to the clerk. Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Sylvia Day, a board-certified geriatric psychiatrist with no connection to either party, evaluated Mrs. Winters yesterday. Her findings conclusively establish that Mrs. Winters has full cognitive capacity and shows no signs of dementia, confusion, or impaired judgment. The judge read through Dr. Day's report, her expression thoughtful. Then she looked directly at me. Mrs. Winters, can you explain in your own words why you believe your husband committed fraud? I stood, keeping my voice calm and clear. Your Honor, 3 days ago I discovered that Adam Winters attempted to bribe a restaurant server to put sedatives in my drink. When I investigated, I found he had forged documents to remove me from a bank account containing $9 million, proceeds from my property sale. I then discovered he was married to another woman when he married me, making our marriage invalid. He has a daughter with his actual wife, and he's been stealing from me for 15 years to pay for her medical treatment. Do you have evidence of these claims? Yes, Your Honor. I have the drugs he attempted to use, analyzed by a university chemist. I have testimony from the server he bribed. I have marriage and divorce records proving the bigamy. And I have bank statements showing systematic theft over 15 years. Judge Reeves looked at Blackwood. Your response? Your Honor, this is a complicated domestic situation being weaponized by a woman who— Mr. Blackwood, is your client legally married to another woman? A pause. He was previously married, yes, but was he divorced from his previous wife when he married Mrs. Winters in 2010? Another pause, longer this time. The divorce was finalized in 2019. So he was married to 2 women simultaneously for 6 years. It was a complicated situation, Your Honor. My client was trying to provide for both families. By committing bigamy and fraud. Judge Reeves's voice was flat. Mr. Blackwood, I'm granting Mrs. Winters's emergency motions in full. All joint accounts are frozen pending criminal investigation. Mr. Adam Winters is prohibited from accessing any property or assets in Mrs. Winters' name. Additionally, I'm issuing a protective order preventing Mr. Winters from contacting Mrs. Winters except through legal counsel. Your Honor, that's excessive. Given that your client attempted to drug Mrs. Winters, I think it's appropriate. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that felt like vindication. Outside the courtroom, Ida turned to me with a smile. That went well. Better than well. That was perfect. Judge Reeves doesn't tolerate fraud, especially against older adults. And Blackwood made a tactical error trying to claim you were incompetent without any real evidence. She checked her watch. The criminal investigation will continue. Detective Hansen tells me they're building a strong case. Adam will likely face charges within the week. What happens then? He'll have a choice: plead guilty and cooperate, or fight it and risk a trial. My guess? He'll plead. The evidence is overwhelming, and Blackwood will advise him that a trial would be expensive and futile. I nodded slowly, processing it all. It wasn't over yet, but the major battle was won. That evening, Jennifer called. I heard about the hearing, she said. Michelle, Mrs. Winters, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. You helped me when you didn't have to. I did it as much for myself as for you. Adam controlled my life for 18 years. Watching you stand up to him, it was cathartic. She paused. There's something else. Melissa wants to talk to you. My heart clenched. I don't know if that's a good idea. She needs to, please. She just found out everything about what her father did, and she's devastated. She wants to apologize. She has nothing to apologize for. I know, but she needs to hear you say it. A moment later, a younger voice came on the line. Mrs. Winters? This is Melissa. Hello, Melissa. I'm so sorry. Her voice was thick with tears. I didn't know what my dad was doing. I swear I didn't. He told me he'd gotten a loan, that he'd worked out a payment plan for the treatment. I had no idea that he was stealing from you. I believe you, I said gently. And I want you to know, I don't blame you. None of this is your fault. But he did it for me, because I'm sick. If I wasn't sick, he wouldn't have— No. Your father made his own choices. Bad choices. Illegal choices. Those decisions are on him, not you. I took a breath. Melissa, I've hired someone to research legitimate funding sources for experimental leukemia treatments. Clinical trials, patient assistance programs, research grants. If you're interested, I'll send you that information. No strings attached. Silence. Then, why would you do that? Because you deserve a chance to get well. And because the sins of the father shouldn't be visited on the daughter. She was crying now openly. Thank you. Thank you so much. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Adam would face justice. My assets were protected. My competency was established beyond doubt, and I'd helped an innocent young woman without compromising my principles. 2 weeks later, Adam pleaded guilty to fraud, forgery, and attempted assault charges. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison with possibility of parole after 2. His law license was permanently revoked. Gerald Blackwood quietly dropped him as a client after the plea deal. I filed for an annulment on the grounds that our marriage was never legal due to his prior marriage. It was granted immediately. David and Caroline helped me sort through 15 years of accumulated possessions, deciding what to keep and what to throw away. It was cathartic, discarding the detritus of a false life. "What are you going to do now?" Caroline asked as we packed up Adam's office. "Live," I said simply. "I'm 63 years old. I have my health, my mental faculties, and enough money to do whatever I want. I'm going to travel. I'm going to spend time with you and your families. And I'm going to remember that I survived this." "You did more than survive," David said. "You won." "No, I protected myself. There's a difference." I looked around the office, soon to be converted into a library or maybe a craft room. Winning would imply I gained something. I didn't. I just kept what was already mine. 6 months later, I received a letter from Melissa. She'd been accepted into a clinical trial in Seattle, one of the programs my researcher had identified. The treatment was showing promise. She was cautiously hopeful. She thanked me again, in handwriting that was shaky but determined, for giving her the information that might save her life. I wrote back, a brief note wishing her well. I didn't tell her that I'd anonymously donated to the research fund supporting her trial. Some acts of kindness are better done in silence. I never heard from Adam again. According to Jennifer, he wrote to Melissa regularly from prison, letters she usually didn't answer. The damage he'd done to their relationship would take years to heal, if it ever did. As for me, I sold the house where I'd lived with a man who'd never really existed. I bought a smaller place in the countryside, with a garden and room for my grandchildren to visit. Caroline and David came often, bringing their families, filling the space with laughter and life. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about those pills, about how close I'd come to being drugged, manipulated, declared incompetent, about how easily my entire life could have been stolen while I slept. But then I remembered the waiter's face when he handed me those pills. The look of someone choosing to do the right thing, even when it cost him. I remembered Detective Hansen documenting my competency, Ida Vance fighting for my rights, Jennifer choosing solidarity over bitterness, my children rallying to my defense without hesitation. And I remembered myself, standing in that courtroom, calm and clear-headed, proving that age doesn't mean weakness, that 63 years of life had taught me resilience, wisdom, and the strength to fight for what was mine. Adam had made a fundamental miscalculation. He'd seen a widow, a woman past her prime, someone he could manipulate and control. He'd failed to see the survivor, the woman who'd built a life from scratch after loss, the mother who'd raised 2 remarkable children alone, the businesswoman who'd navigated a male-dominated industry with skill and determination. He'd underestimated me because of my age, my gender, my apparent vulnerability. It was the last mistake he ever made as a free man. On my 64th birthday, Caroline asked me what I'd learned from the whole ordeal. I thought about it for a long moment, sipping wine on my new porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and amber. I learned that the wisdom that comes with age is a weapon more powerful than any lie, I said finally. I learned that patience, preparation, and intelligence will always defeat brute force or clever schemes. And I learned that the greatest strength isn't in never being fooled. It's in recognizing the truth when you see it and having the courage to act on it. She smiled. "That's beautiful, Mom." "It's survival," I corrected gently. "Beauty is just a side effect." The sun set, and the stars came out, and I sat in the peace I'd fought so hard to reclaim. My money was mine. My life was mine. My future was mine. And I'd never again let anyone take those things from me without a fight. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you.